welcome to the next episode of the Road to Edmond podcast. My name is David Trotter, and I'm the producer and director of the film. And I'm excited today to talk with Sarah Reeve and Crystal Chandler, starring as our brides in the film. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
You guys, even though you don't live in the same town, you happen to be together right now in Arizona. So that was fun that we got to be able to kind of be face to face, at least, not in three places.
Yeah, it worked out well.
It's perfect. So excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So I just want to talk to you guys about the film and your experience and a little bit about your background. And maybe let's start by, Sarah, I gave you, I don't know if it was a text or an email or a call. I don't know what it was, but I approached you about this film, about the idea of the two of you being brides in Denver at the location. What was going through your head when I first approached you with this concept?
Well, I'm kind of blushing and giggling right now, which is exactly what I did when I got the text. I was like, oh, what a fun experience. So, Crystal and I have been together a little over a year and a half, and it's pretty serious, but we have a lot of fun together. So I just was like, another adventure. How fun would it be to get married and be extras in a movie? So I think that's actually what I said to you. Like, do you want to get married in a movie?
Do you want to get married? And I was like, what? And she's like, well, in a movie. I was like, what do I have to do?
Yeah.
And then I was absolutely.
I didn't tell her she had to wear a dress for a while.
Yeah, she lived that part.
I held that off.
Yeah, I knew that might be a little tough as part of the deal. Now, I should let people know that, Sarah, you and I have known each other in the past.
Yes.
And my wife went to high school with you.
Yes. And I would say we didn't just go to high school together. We actually hung out in high school. We were friends.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been friends for a long time. Yeah.
And so I will say that even as we're having this conversation, you know, one of the reasons why I'm wanting to make the film is to spur on these questions about faith and sexuality and Jesus. And that's a real, I guess it's an intimate process for you personally.
Yes.
And one of the reasons why I wanted you to be in the film, you know, I could find kind of any two women to be in the film in Denver. You know, I could have just gone on Craigslist and found someone.
Same-sex couples, yes.
Well, and they didn't even have to be same sex.
Yeah.
They could have been. They could have even been straight. You know, but I'm not sure how authentic that would have been.
Yeah.
Because when I look in your guys' eyes as I edit the film, there's a lot of authentic, you know, love there, and that's really powerful. Even my wife, as she is watching the edit, she's like, "Wow, you know, their facial expressions are so powerful." So, talk to me about. As much as you want to share, you know, how faith and your own process of dating Crystal and you know, I mean, man, you've got quite a journey. You know, you've got quite a story, and you feel free to share whatever you feel comfortable sharing. But this is as much as I have wanted to spur on these questions through this film. This is a really intimate concept for you personally.
It really is. And it's one of the reasons why I was super excited. I don't know if I would do it for just anyone. I want to speak to that. You're very trustworthy, and I've seen your films before, and I knew that it was going to be done authentically. I also know your heart, and I trusted you. Like, I didn't feel like, oh, this is going to be some kind of Christian intervention to get me off the backslidden path. I really like that you're approaching it with this just genuine curiosity and wanting people to just have conversations. I am all on board about that. And I probably have more questions than I do have answers. However, my spirituality and my sexuality is not compartmentalized. I'm really trying to be integrated and be the woman that God created me to be. So that intersection, I don't think that it was ever separate for me. But I have been living just a really traditional life Well, I have not. I mean, I've been a single mom for so many years, and that in itself is outside of the design of traditional. But I grew up in the church. My dad was I guess he would probably still associate himself as an evangelical pastor. But my faith, I mean, at a very early age, because I experienced disappointment from the church, knowing that, there's a difference between God and the people that follow God, and seeking God's approval is really the goal, not the approval of people who follow God. And so I've known that for a long, long time, but I think that's really sort of been come into focus lately, because even through my divorce, I still was a favorite in the church. I wouldn't call myself a favorite anymore. That makes sense.
Part of it, you have a very effervescent personality, and you're heartwarming, and you're authentic, and there's a desire. So yeah, that is interesting. And the church that you were a part of loved you. You know what I mean? Because of not just I wouldn't say it's not just external in terms of, you're bubbly and personality.
Yes.
There's a genuine care for you. So you're saying there was that's an interesting word, a favorite, someone who was looked upon positively.
Yes. Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
And it sounds like there's been some transition or challenges there.
Yes. Well, since I've identified myself in the LGBTQ community, I don't feel like I've lost favor with God, but I feel like I've lost favor with people who follow God. Not all of them, but I've definitely experienced that.
How has that impacted your faith over the process of that?
It's interesting. I actually think it pushed me closer to God, because it put me, I mean, there was a time period early on in our relationship, Crystal could probably speak to that, where I was literally praying every day, just asking God every day, am I still in your favor? Am I still yours? Give me clarity, give me direction, give me discernment and wisdom, and, open doors or slam them shut, and I was it really pushed me towards God, not away from God. Even though there were people saying that I was outside of God, I was no longer eligible to inherit the kingdom of God, and those kind of things.
Were those people that were close to you in a relationship with you that were saying those types of things?
Yeah, that's the part that's hard.
Yeah. So
and I think also it was hard because I was expecting a different reaction. So, I mean, I was expecting that people that barely knew me would throw those 6 verses out at me. And I was sort of prepared for that, but I wasn't prepared for the people. Like, I remember saying to people, like, do you even know me? Like, they were questioning my responsibility as a parent. And, someone had said that basically by falling in love with Crystal, I was negating the value of men, and I have a son, and what's that teaching your son about men? And I was like, I mean, being a mother it's one of my biggest deals. So anyway, it hurt.
So having been married and gone through a divorce, and it sounds like you would identify as LGBTQ in the last couple of years.
That's true.
How did you, and maybe you didn't have a traditional perspective on sexuality prior to that, but if you did, how did you come to grips with that perspective of sexuality that you were surrounded by, or even held yourself? How did you come to grips with that, with what you were feeling inside?
That's a good question. So I think I had my first gay friend as a teenager, and I've always identified as a Christian, and I'm just crazy about Jesus, and he's crazy about me. And I've always been really studious of the Bible, and just wanting to live a life of faith. even though things have been hard for me growing up. But anyway, my point is I always identified as an ally, always. And I have spent long hours with Christians in the coming out process who were so disturbed and discouraged and frustrated and scared and worried about what God thought of them and if they were still loved by God. And it's almost like because I've done that I've prayed with so many of my friends. When I started to experience, and I was single and celibate for 10 years. And so I was praying God for timing. And so when Crystal came on the scene, it was a surprise. Not going to lie, super surprised. Although I can, you look back and you see different things, but I just never wrestled with what's God going to think now? It was always, what's my family going to think? What are my friends going to think? What's the community that I serve with going to think? What's the church going to think? That was my fear and anxiety with coming out. But I don't know that the part about, my identity wasn't shaken. Like I think some people's has been because I've walked that path with so many of my friends.
Good. No, that's great. Thanks for sharing all that. It's awesome. Crystal, you and I don't know each other as much. And so thank you, first of all, for wearing a dress in the film.
Absolutely.
That was
most
one
uncomfortable in my life, but it was great.
That was one of the things that, I shared with Sarah was I said, and I know that Crystal tends to wear more masculine clothes. And so, but I needed you to wear a dress so that the viewer, as soon as they saw you at the altar, would go, okay, that's like, there was no confusion. You know what I mean? In terms of like what was going on. We wanted it to be super clear.
Absolutely.
And you look absolutely gorgeous.
And awkward. Gorgeous and awkward.
No matter what you're wearing. You look awesome.
And I'm okay with that.
So talk to me when Sarah brought this to your attention, this opportunity to be in a film. What was going through your head?
Well, like Sarah said, she has a love for adventure. And I think that's something that brought us together is we're both adventure seekers. And we're both on this path in life to have like the most authentic experiences as we can, as far out as they may be. Like, why not just jump all in and see what happens? Because like she said, she has a God that she trusts and she loves, and she knows that he's not going to put her on a path of like wrongdoing, really, And so I've recently come into kind of that same faith of trusting something higher than myself. So I was like, why not? Let's just do it. I don't care if I have to wear a dress. This will be a memory that we'll talk about for years and years. So I was all in, a little nervous, but very excited. I trust Sarah with all my heart. So anything she wants to do, I'm on board.
That's great. Thank you for doing that. Yeah, it was wonderful. Tell me about your faith. You said that there's kind of a newness for you in trusting some sort of higher power. Did you grow up with faith? And tell me a little bit about your journey.
So I didn't grow up in any kind of traditional faith. I grew up with a single mother, and we did the church on Easter because you're supposed to kind of faith. My mom grew up in the church, Catholic church. So I don't know if she kind of had a fear. She didn't want to set us on a specific path. She wanted it to be like our choice when we got older. But I never fell into any kind of church regiment, and going to church wasn't my thing. And so, I think I always struggled with something, wanting to have some kind of spiritual experience in life and asking those questions. And I fell into like a group that, they challenge those beliefs and want you to find a path of believing something bigger than yourself to better who I am as a person and live more authentically in this life. So I've been blessed over the last few years, knowing a lot of great people. So.
How has knowing Sarah impacted that faith? Like, how has that either been positive or negative or?
it's probably one of the most positive things in my life so far. Like she was saying, to watch her when she came out to struggle with the impact that it had on her, what I would consider like her church family, like those people that you think of being like your second family because they follow you in the same faith, kind of question her. I mean, everybody loves Sarah, like hands down. She's the most lovable person I know. So to watch her, to watch her pained by that rejection by people who loved her before but couldn't love her when she was happy.
Just so weird.
To watch her, like she said, she didn't stray from God. That did not make her question God. That made her question the people that have been in her life and always were there for good. She was like, I just don't understand that they loved me before. Why can't they love me now? And for me to be like that, I would have been angry at God. Like, why would you put these people in my life if they're just going to turn their back? But she was the opposite. And for me, I'm like, wow, I've never met somebody that's so intensely in love with her faith and her higher power that she, like she said, she pushed into it. And watching her go to 100 different churches, trying to find a new group of people to love her. And she just kept trudging that road. She's been such an inspiration to me. And my family they're all in the Christian faith now, and they love that she loves Jesus. And so there's like, oh my gosh, Crystal might get baptized because she's with Sarah. They're like super excited about it. So
yeah, your grandfather said that he was praying for someone like me.
Exactly. So it's been such a positive experience. And regardless of our faith, I love her so much. Such a good-hearted person. So.
That's great. On to a little lighter subject for a moment. I don't know why. I have a real gift to make people cry, so thank you. My wife's like, why do you make people cry? I'm like, I'm not. I just try not. I don't mean to. Tell me about maybe a high and low during the filming process. This was a one-day filming, right? You guys flew out to the day before you flew out to Denver. You came from, where did you come from? Crystal, Phoenix?
Yeah, I flew in from Phoenix.
And then I flew in from Orange County.
Yep. And so we got into this wonderful church in Denver, Christ Church, right after their service, and filmed all into the evening doing the reception. Tell me, what was a high and low, or what was something unexpected, or tell me about your experience.
Well, I would say my high was definitely getting to connect with all the people there. I always say God is efficient. There's multiple things going on at one time, right? So I happen to have an aunt and a cousin who live in Denver, Colorado. I got to see them. My cousin came and was an extra in the movie. I got to see my good friend Rose, who I hadn't seen a long time. I got to meet all these other cool people. Like anyone who knows Dave Trotter, automatically you're cool, right? So I got to meet all these really cool people. And then this miraculous, amazing men's choir sang, and then they actually put their hands on us like they were blessing us. And I was just like, it was so affirming. I just felt like that part was just all the different connections we made. I thought was definitely my high.
As a side note, that's the Denver Gay Men's Choir that happened to be rehearsing. Actually, they were holding auditions, I think, at the church. And so I contacted the director and said, can you sing at the ceremony? And it was just, it's just magical. Their voices are
probably
incredible.
One of my best experiences. I would put it in the top 10 times that I've been prayed or blessed, over. I would consider that being prayed over. It was so intense and beautiful.
I think it was so intense because I didn't know it was coming. So then all of a sudden I was like, whoa. And I was like, whoa, that was so crazy cool. It was so emotional. It was so powerful. It was a really cool part of the whole filmmaking process. Sure.
Yeah, that was probably my high. Yeah, that was good.
How about you, Crystal? What stands out from the day for you?
I think the entire experience, I had to keep stopping and saying, oh my gosh, we're going to be in a movie. Like, that's a trip in itself. And then, oh my gosh, I have to wear heels all day. How do women do this? Like, I have no idea how hard it is to be a girl, like a really feminine girl, I should just say. Like, I just had to keep laughing, like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. But just being part of that magical experience, or like just the honor of being part of something to this degree, it was fantastic. It was just really fun.
We're in the process of, post-production. And so watching you guys dance together in silence.
That's right. That was so funny. We talked about we're like, there's no music when people are dancing in movies. It was crazy fun.
That trips a lot of people out. Wait,
yeah.
You're doing silent. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, we filmed it all silent, and then we'll add music later that we're able to use legally.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it's so fun to watch you guys dance. And Trip Fuller kind of interweaving and dancing with you, Crystal, which was just hilarious.
He's hilarious.
What would you say, now you haven't seen the film, you don't know the full scope of the film.
No, but we've been watching everything on social media, so we're getting pieces of it. Yeah.
Yes. What would you want people to get out of the film? What are your hopes?
I want people to be having conversations about this, like the God and gay conversation, I think is super important. And so I think it's one more conduit for truth to come out, for love to come out, for healing. There's a part of me that kind of wants to go silent and just be like, forget it. I'm just going to go live my life and be happy. And there's another part of me that's like, gosh, God has used every part of my life story. Of course he's going to use this part too. Like, who am I to not be a part of this conversation, and it's an important conversation. It's a hard conversation. And I think people want to have it. It's sort of bubbling up. And so like movie, like seeing something with someone and then talking about it afterwards is a great and a non-threatening way to talk about a hard topic.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure there's other things you address in the movie, but that's the one that's closest to my heart.
Sure. Yeah, there is definitely a questioning the issue. That is a central issue, but it's kind of the something that kickstarts the conversation about questions about faith in a broader context and God in a broader context. This issue of those in the church would probably say, as you would know, the issue of homosexuality. And I know that term is not necessarily used much anymore outside of the church. It seems like, but that that's at the forefront of a lot of people's minds these days, in the local church, because our kids have friends who have two moms or two dads, or we're seeing things, whether it's in movies or television shows or, you name it. It's everywhere in terms of culture, in terms of the conversation. And I don't say everywhere from a negative perspective. I just go, no. This is part of the cultural conversation that's happening. And the church is starting to talk about that. And I would say, now I'm in Southern California, so it's a very progressive atmosphere, as you are, Sarah.
Yeah.
Where it's different, where I have friends in the South or maybe the Northeast, or, different places. But, I would even say that so many people who are in the pews, quote unquote, may have really different views on this issue than the leadership in the churches that they're attending. Would you agree with that?
Yes, very much so.
So I think about even the church that you were a part of, to go, how many of the people in those seats have a perspective that's much more inclusive than the leadership of that church or other churches like it?
Yes.
And I would even dare to say that unless the individual is closer to leadership in a church, or maybe just really on more of a conservative spectrum, the average person is really more inclusive, it seems like. And I think that people can't have this conversation, or don't feel like they can have this conversation in the local church. It's so taboo that to talk about it, even to ask the question, even to bring up the question, means that there's something wrong with you.
Right. That's true.
Would you say that's been your experience?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And there's a bit of like a sense of like, oh, we might catch whatever has made her go astray, like getting too close to her, we might catch it,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but it feels a little bit like, it's just, I don't know, around all the issues, why is there so much shame around this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you said, it's taboo to talk about.
Right. Yeah. And I have great compassion for people across the spectrum. Those who are conservative friends that have more of a traditional perspective, I have great compassion for that and understanding. For those who are more progressive or have a different perspective, I have great compassion. And, it's like, I think one of the challenges that I've spoken with Tripp about is that the film is almost like an equal opportunity offender. There, for those who are very progressive would go, you're not saying enough. And for those who are conservative are saying, you're not saying it's wrong. You know what I mean? And so what I'm trying to do is to go, no, how can we have conversation about this?
Right.
And how can there be more grace, a little more of a loose hand instead of gripping those beliefs so tightly, that can we at least loosen the grip just a little bit to have the conversation? I don't know. That's my hope. That's my hope for the film.
Yeah, 100%. Because I think my hope for this film is we all have that family member that's like, oh, you're going to hell. Like, if you're gay, you have one person in your family that doesn't even want to talk about the issue. They've already made up their mind. So my hope would be to get them to watch the movie. Like, as somebody just be like, hey, let's just watch it and see what happens. That would be my dream. Is everybody could get just that one family member to agree to watch it and then have a conversation. Conversation is everything. Just being able to talk it out and like, let me know more about why you think that, not just make this blatant comment that you think so true. Like, why? What about me makes you think that's going to happen?
Right.
So yeah, the conversation is the crux. I hope that happens.
Me too,
for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And in some ways, I am hoping that people who that go to a church, that this would cause them to be able to feel the freedom to have that conversation with the people who are leaders at their church, to wrestle through it. And that some of the pat answers wouldn't be just so pat, but that there would be an exploration of these issues, not just about sexuality, but the faith issues that we bring up as well. So
and what you said about pat answers is so true. Is that they ring empty when you've heard the same thing over and over, and then you're just kind of like that. It's not satisfying. It doesn't feel authentic. There's got to be more. And and if you've truly encountered the Holy Spirit, that there is just it's dynamic. There's just some things that are right, or that you think are right, and it has to be this way, and then your heart is softened, and you're like, oh, I might have been looking at that all wrong, and you have these epiphanies, and that comes from relationship, that comes from process, it's not so black and white.
Mm-hmm. Talk to me about a film that has caused you guys to question life or question. It doesn't have to be about faith or sexuality, but just life in general, or something that's caused you to question or inspire you or make you think more deeply. A film that comes to mind?
I think my go-to film is V for Vendetta. I love the powerful message behind that. It's like that one person can make a change, like one voice can cause an uprising to make a bigger change. And I don't know, that's like my go-to, like when everything looks raw, like it's like, oh, we need change. We just need to start the movement. And one becomes many, which becomes the change, which I love.
Sarah, how many times has she made you watch that?
I was just going to say, so you asked us that question earlier today, preparing us for this podcast. And I was like, I haven't seen that movie. She's like, after we interview with Dave, we are watching it.
Oh, man.
And I was like, I don't know. So I'm excited. That's what we're going to do.
Is there one that comes up for you, Sarah, at all?
So cliche, I would say The Matrix. I have to, because I just think that I just remember having so many philosophical and spiritual discussions after seeing it. And it's kind of the go-to about, God doesn't want me to be comfortable. He wants me to be convicted, and I would much rather be in authenticity than in easy. And to live brave and authentic is a definite commitment and choice. And, but at the same time, like I know why some people don't want to dig too deep, or, I know why some people subscribe to just cliche, blanket faith or living, or, ways of black and white, it's easier, and it gets messy and chaotic and confusing, and you risk looking dumb. You change your mind, you look erratic. It's just difficult to be in that space. So, but so rewarding at the same time.
That's awesome. Yeah. What are some, what's a question or questions that you're wrestling with in life right now? It could be spiritual, but, focused on that. We know that spirituality is not segmented from all of life, but is there some kind of question that you feel you find yourself going back to recently? Could be about kids, could be about workplace, could be about passion.
I think my always go to when I'm just like pondering life is like, why do things happen the way they happen? Like, why does there have to be evil? Why does there have to be bad? Why does there have to be like this play out? And then you think about it and like, oh, well, this has to happen for this to happen. And if this didn't happen, this one happened. But it's like, ultimately, like, why does any bad ever have to happen? Why can't we just live good all the time and treat each other good all the time? And I'm like, why did we have to have choice? Like, why can't we just all be good? Like that just the why of just life in general is like my go-to pondering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll stretch your mind for sure. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I think for me, because I grew up in such a really rigid evangelical belief system, it's always kind of bothered me, this idea that God is only this way. And, like I have really good friends of it's a huge value of mine to be, to have all different types of people in my life. I don't, if everyone around me looks exactly the same and acts the same and believes the same, I think I'm in hell. So I won't be growing and I won't be sharp, and it's so boring. So I've always had really good friends who have completely different faith. And so it's just kind of bothered me that, if God is so big and so vast and so amazing, he really could be showing himself in different ways. But like that's heresy in the Christian church. And so
you're definitely not the favorite now.
It's always bothered me so much because I just, I know I have felt the love of God. And so I just know that if God loves that extravagantly, that, I don't know, ridiculously, I mean, he is looking for ways to connect with us. I really believe that. So is there really just one way? That would be my big question.
Good questions. Yeah, really good questions.
But I've said the Jesus prayer just in case.
I love it. I love it. All right. Good stuff. Well, I really appreciate your guys' willingness to be on this adventure of being in the film and being a part of, just the whole release. And here we go. And it's going to be a crazy adventure. This next year, I don't know what's going to happen with this thing. It could just go nowhere. It could go crazy. I'm thinking we'll probably get a little publicity, which could be pretty fun, positive, negative.
I'm going to push it as much as I can.
I'm telling you, there are people that are going to watch the movie just to see Crystal in a dress, just so you know.
Yes. We got our first 1,000 viewers just off that alone. Right? That was my biggest marketing ploy of the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, if you're listening, because you are listening, we want you to follow us on social media, as Sarah and Crystal mentioned. We're posting regularly on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and you can sign up for our email update and hear about each one of these podcasts where we're interviewing cast and crew to hear about their lives and about their experiences. And it's just a great way for you to also know about the pre-release screenings that we will be having. The goal is to have those in April, May, and June of 2018 across the country so that you can give us feedback on the film and that you can be a part of the excitement of spurring on this whole idea of questions about faith, about sexuality, and about Jesus. So until next time, follow us on social media. And thanks so much, Sarah and Crystal. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks.